What's up, guys? This is Ben with Ben's election predictions. And after looking at the best case scenario, landslide scenario for Donald Trump, I wanted to do the same thing for Joe Biden. And after I do both of these videos, these are going to be the two bounds on kind of what I think is possible if we look at the best case scenario for Trump and the best case scenario for Biden. So, like I said in my landslide Donald Trump video, I don't think it's likely that there's going to be a landslide for either candidate. I think it will probably be somewhere in the middle. But I do want to caveat and say I do think that the Donald Trump landslide scenario here is probably more likely than what I'm going to show you in the Joe Biden scenario. I think this scenario probably has around a 5 to 10% chance points. If it happens, if Biden has some health scare, there's some global crisis, which the people blame Biden for. But today we're going to focus on what would it look like if, Joe Biden just ran away with it and, won in a total landslide. So I do think, Donald Trump's lowest floor is around 112 points. If we include the likely states, which I'm about to do, I think we can get up a little bit higher. Um, but even just starting out, I even think in Joe Biden's best case scenario, it's not going to be a walk in the park by any means. So starting out, we're going to look at the likely Republican states. So I do think that Joe Biden could improve on upon his 2020 results in Utah. Utah is a weird state. It's one of these states that's perceived as being very conservative, but it actually can be a little bit more independent because of its high Mormon population. And this is a this is a state that in 2016 that Donald Trump actually didn't even get 50% of the vote. And obviously this was very much due to the third party candidate Evan McMullen. But you could see that, since there are more third party candidates in 2024 than in 2020, I I could see Donald Trump's margin being a little bit less than it was in 2016 in Joe Biden's best case scenario with these, values based voters might want, someone who didn't have this whole porn star hush money trial. Um, Montana too, I think could be a likely Republican state. This is a state that is trending towards the left. You know, a lot of people from like California and Colorado are moving to these ski towns in Montana, like Big Sky. And there's also a competitive Senate race there with John Tester, who's the incumbent Democratic senator. So it's definitely a state that's willing to be more independent. Donald Trump did win it pretty handily if we look at 2016 by around 20 points, but it was a little bit closer in 2020. And if we see this trend continue and Joe Biden has his best case scenario, you could see this being between 10 and 12 points. Next up, I'm gonna go to the state of Iowa, and I was debating, whether to have this in the lean or likely category because this is a state that Obama won twice, so presumably in Biden's best case scenario, you would think, okay, like maybe he could win it like Obama did, but just because of how Donald Trump has changed politics so much, and looking at the demographics of Iowa and how much it shifted to the right in the past 10 years. I mean, we saw one of the most high quality, the most high quality trusted pollster had Donald Trump up by 18 points. And, this was a state that Trump won by 8 points in 2016 and in 2020. And so, do I expect or, almost 10 points in 2016? So maybe we could see this trend to the left a little bit, but based on the polling, the baseline is probably going to be Donald Trump's going to win this by more. So even in Joe Biden's best case scenario, I don't think he improves off his 2020 results very much, if at all. And I was debating about whether to put state of Ohio in the lean or likely category. I think Ohio would be right on the borderline, and I do think that the polling reflects this. Ohio does appear to be to the left of Iowa, because we've seen some high quality polls that have it at around 10 points or 8 points. And this is the most high quality poll that has Iowa at 18 points. So I do think that Joe Biden could probably eat into Trump's margin here, but I don't think it's winnable. And this might be shocking to say 10 years ago when Barack Obama won the state twice, but even in a Joe Biden landslide scenario, I don't think it's possible for him to pick up Ohio. The next state that I want to focus on is the state of Alaska. This is one of the most traditional Republican states. It's where Sarah Palin's from, but it has been trending to the left, and pretty significantly, actually, if we look at it. So, like, um, we looked at, John McCain, who got beaten away and Scott won Alaska by around 20 points, Mitt Romney by around 14, I think Trump by around 14 or so. But in 2020, it was only about 10. And, most people are asleep. And, with the Alaska's three electoral votes, it's not very important, but it's getting closer and closer to have the Democratic at-large Congresswoman. So I could see Alaska being a state that Joe Biden actually does improve in his best case scenario. Next up, kind of moving to the states that I think might be likely or lean Democrat. So, I in reality, I don't think it's possible that Biden wins the state by more than 5 points, just based on um Barack Obama winning it and the fact that Joe Biden did win this state in 2020. I do think he can improve his margin there. And right now, he actually is very narrowly up in the polling. So I do think it's possible in his best case scenario, if Trump continues to fall, that Biden does win the state by around 5 or 6 percentage points. And I know I already had Michigan filled in. I think Michigan, it's possible to be more like 5 to 8 percentage points. And we saw this reflected in 2020 when Biden won the state by around 3 points when Wisconsin was less than 1 point. And similar deal to Wisconsin. I think Pennsylvania is probably in that 5 to 6, 5 to 7 point range. Um, and just if we kind of think of a more macro view, Joe Biden won the election in 2020 by around 5 percentage points. And I actually think that he can probably his best case scenario is probably to win it by around, let's say, 7, 8 percentage points. I just think that Donald Trump has a higher floor than other political candidates do, and even higher than Joe Biden, I would say. So I think having a 2 to 3 percentage point swing in the more highly polarized states in Biden's favor is probably realistic right here. So that this actually does take Joe Biden over the 270 mark in his landslide scenario. But let's quickly fill out some of these other states. So I have Nevada actually being a lean Democratic state. So I think without considering Biden's best case scenario, Trump's best case scenario, I think the baseline is Nevada is going to flip to Trump. So if we add on Biden's landslide scenario onto that, then I think it kind of flips back to exactly where it was in 2020. So Biden's best case scenario is to match his results in 2020, which some people might think is crazy, but I just think the politics and the demographics, Trump's strength with Hispanics, makes Nevada say that it's just trending to the right. So Biden's campaign would be very, very happy just to maintain his 2020 result. Same thing with Arizona. Arizona is a little bit different. It's a little bit more educated. It's less Hispanic than Nevada is, but I actually could see Arizona trending to the left more than Nevada. This is a state that has been trending to the left for a while. I do think, some of the more demographic changes will be muted by Trump's strength on immigration and Biden's weakness there. So, that's why the polls have it at about, Trump +3, Trump +4, Trump +5. But I do think the state could trend a little bit left in Biden's best case scenario. Moving on, I think North Carolina, despite the state going Republican the last three presidential cycles, Trump won it twice. I do think it is possible that this is a pickup for Biden. And this would, reflect actually one of the only pickups that I think that he could get in his best case scenario. This is to say that Trump, only won by around 1 point in 2020. And, with the cities of Raleigh, Charlotte, Durham, these, very highly educated urban cities, even Asheville, gaining population from out of state, you would think on the surface that North Carolina is a state that would be trending left. It's kind of been that fool's gold for Democrats, kind of like Nevada for the Republicans. But I do see this as being a state that in Joe Biden's best case scenario that he could pick up, and even by more than 2 points, maybe around 2 to 4 points. And I know that the Democrats are heavily investing in field offices and whatnot here. And Georgia's a state that I frankly think is going to be to the right of North Carolina in 2024. Um, and I, I honestly think in Biden's best case scenario that this is just a tilt Democratic state. And let me tell you why. We saw that Herschel Walker in 2022, was only losing by Raphael Warnock by 1 percentage point on election day. And like when it was lower turnout in the runoff, I think he ended up losing by 2 or 3 points. But I just think with the higher turnout of the presidential election in Georgia just being a traditionally Republican state, I think Joe Biden did about as well as he could in Georgia in 2020. I just don't see him doing any better than that. And I think, the baseline scenario would probably have Trump 3, Trump +4. Um, Moving on to the state of Florida, I think Florida is tilt Republican, and some people might be surprised on either side. They're like, Florida's a red state. There's no way that Joe Biden could even get close here. Or you would say this is a state that Obama won in 20 um 2012 and in 2008. The only reason that I have it where this is now is because in the most recent Fox News poll, which is a plus rated poll, that they had Trump only winning by around 4 points. And then also when we look at some of these ballot measures, that they actually have the policies aligned with Joe Biden winning by nearly 70 percentage points. And so I when the governor and Governor Ron DeSantis and Senator Marco Rubio won by around 20 points in 2022, I do think that did show a realignment. I do think Donald Trump will probably win the state by around like 4, 5, or 6 percentage points. But I do think in Joe Biden's best case scenario with abortion on the ballot that he could come close. But with all the Republicans just moving to Florida, I don't think it's going to be particularly close. I don't think Joe Biden, even in his best case scenario, has a chance. Lastly, going to Texas, I still think it's going to be a, red Texas, but I'm putting it in the same boat as Florida. I just think with all of the leftward trends in Austin, Dallas, and Houston, which make up the majority of the population in Texas, like the Texas Triangle, if you include San Antonio as well. If you just included those cities, Texas would be a blue state. So the rules offset it. And Texas has been close, like in the 2018 Senate race, and it's been trending leftward for a while. And I think why do people think because of Biden's weakness on immigration that Texas, is probably pretty safe for Trump in 2024. But I do think in Biden's best case scenario, it's not unrealistic, for Trump to only win this state by around 1 or 2 percentage points. So there you have it. And if we compare the Biden versus Trump, like they're both of their best case scenario or landslide scenarios, you see that Trump has more upside, that he has the potential to win more electoral votes than Biden does, which, I think goes to show that, right now Trump does have the advantage based on the polling. And one thing that I do want to establish is I think, all of my predictions that I will do up until election day, these are going to be the outer bounds of them. And so I know some of the other forecasts, the 538 uh, forecasts, they have a lot of, outside scenarios that I just don't think are realistic or credible at all. I think this gives you a better framework. I think Joe Biden will be between 191 and 320 electoral votes, and Donald Trump will be between 218 and 347 electoral votes. And I think I baked in here, black swan events, health events, um, just I think that we are so polarized that we're never going to see, even something like 2008 where Barack Obama got over 350 electoral votes. I mean, I think Trump can get close. Biden, can't really even get that close. But one thing that I think is pretty interesting is looking back at the 2020 economist forecast, which, some people looked at as being a pretty reliable source. You could even just see at their average that they were projecting a landslide even bigger than I would even be like would say is in the possibilities in 2024. So even in each candidate's best case scenario, I don't think it's possible for any candidate to get above 350. And I think this is right, based on how polarized we are. And I do think this bakes in black swan events. 2020, big black swan year, COVID year, the election was still very, very close. So let me know what y'all think of Joe Biden's landslide scenario and Donald Trump's landslide scenario, and let me know what I got right, what I got wrong, and I will see y'all later.